Welcome to the first episode of the A&M show with Anne Scottlin and Malcolm Gallagher. I'm Malcolm Gallagher in the UK. Let's go over to California now and say hello to Anne. Hello, Anne.
Hi, Malcolm. I'm Anne Scottlin. I'm so happy to be here. Exciting. This is our first show.
Yes, it is. I know. Hands across the water,
Yes.
But what we're hoping we're going to do with this show is to help people with their personal improvement, but do it in such a way that it's not old hat, it's exciting, it's relating to what's going on today, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think we have to keep it fresh. If we don't, we just lose momentum. We get stuck. I mean, we're constantly evolving and changing every minute, every second biologically. So also the mind. So if we're not constantly moving and learning and growing, then we're losing out.
Yeah. Well, let's start talking about our first episode. And our subject matter for the first episode is something close to my heart. Well, it is on every morning when the alarm clock goes off, and it's called motivation. Are you up for doing it?
I am.
So every morning, Anne, I'm thinking about it. Do I, especially this time in the winter here in the UK, do I just turn over or do I jump out of bed? By the way, I have to jump out of bed fairly quickly, go and make my wife a cup of tea. So what motivates you in the morning?
Oh my goodness. Well, my cup of tea as well, which I'm very proud to say I drink English breakfast tea with milk, with sugar. I'm a total baby. I love it. I can't drink tea plain. Ugh. Tea in the morning, waking up to see my 3 adopted mini schnauzers and my husband, but especially my 3 adopted mini schnauzers, and working out because I can only think clearly through the day. It's not about looking good. It's about actually being able to have a clear mind. So working out motivates me. I know if I get up and I work out, I'm going to feel better all day.
Mine at my tender age, of course, is I play meditation music for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, just to calm me down from all that happy dreaming I've been doing. But motivation is a really important subject matter. And let's talk about what we're going to be doing and helping people with motivation, because it's a subject that it's got a wide amount. What we're going to do is to split it out across a few episodes. This particular episode, we'll be talking about a personal motivation primer to get you slowly and easily into understanding motivation on a personal basis. And then in future episodes, we'll be talking about team motivation, and advanced personal motivation. And that's probably where we really start to score well, doesn't it? Because you and I have been around a bit, and well, me a little bit longer than yourself, but we've experienced the problems people have got in motivation, haven't we?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a constant problem, I think, and definitely worth an episode today because everyone wants to have more, especially for things they don't necessarily like, and even for things they do.
Yes, yeah. So let's get started, Anne. And this very simple subject that we should really be kicking off with, and motivation. What is it? Well, as you see on the screen, we're given a simple answer: the driver to achieve your goals or needs. But I think there's a little bit of nuances there, isn't there, Anne? Because it's not as clear cut as that, is it?
No, I think of motivation as less about pushing, less about willpower, and more about attraction. Because I grew up in a really hardworking family. My parents are our relatives probably came over on the Mayflower. My parents are from New England, Massachusetts, Puritan, you name it, like very hard work ethic, very strict about everything. And so I kind of learned, not at any fault of theirs, to use negative motivation. But I've since learned that having an attraction to something is much stronger than just feeling like you have to force.
Yeah, yeah. And I think most people find it a little bit difficult to set the goals and their needs, because they've got a mindset which has got so much going on in this busy world. Steering them closely to helping achieve, the sensible goal, the realistic goal is important, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If it's not practical, then what's the point?
Yes, without a doubt. So moving on then, the McClellan's human motivation theory says that every one of us has one of three motivators, and those three are achievement, affiliation, and power. Now, they're not inherent. You achieve them as you go through life's experiences, and through the cultures you experience. Now, I suppose mine at this tender age is achievement. So where are you standing on this scale then, Anne?
Wow, this is such a great scale. And I mean, I think it depends sometimes on what. So when I was working in Hollywood for 10 years, I would say achievement was definitely, that was what I was set for. Affiliation, though, is also very powerful. If you're, being part of a group, or a company, or a social entrepreneurship, whatever it is, when you're in a group of people and you want to stay with those people, even if sometimes you do or don't like the job. So that is
Yeah.
definitely. And then power. How do you define power, Malcolm?
Well, you see, people think that power is just is something you're in charge of everybody and everything. I don't think it is. I think that I've got a lot of friends in celebrities, and I think what I envy about them is one of them is a guy called Steve Cram, who silver in the Olympics and that for the 1500 meters. And what I envy about the power he has is that he can use his celebrity status to generate a huge amount of charitable work. And I think that's power that's really exciting.
That is a great example. I really love that. So it's less about ego and more about impact, but power can be a good thing. That's great. I love that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And some people, of course, take power to the wrong end. I was talking one day to a procurement director, and he says, "Oh, I just hold my vendors or suppliers, we call them in the UK, like by the braces over the cliff edge, and they've got to give me the discounts and everything I want." And I think that's power being usurped. It's the wrong way
Mm-hmm.
of thinking about power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's just like leadership, right? Which is partly power. The most successful leaders are the ones who empower the people with them and beneath them, and actually bring them up with them. It's not a war, one versus the other, which some companies you see this happening, right? It's more about when everyone wins, the company wins. And that's good
Yeah.
leadership, and that's good use of power.
I think the one in the middle, affiliation, there again is not something to be dismissed. I'm very proud to be a chartered marketer, and also I've got the freedom of the City of London because I'm a freeman of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, of Marketers, sorry, and which there's only about 450 of us in the world. Now that is quite an exciting affiliation. It's not power, but it gives me access, and it's a motivator to stay ahead of the game.
Yeah, that's really exciting and motivating, and it distinguishes you in a way that helps other people understand your affiliation and understand the benefit that you can bring to the conversation. I think affiliation can sometimes work both ways too. Might as well unpack that one just for a second, which is, as you know, I basically grew up as a little child in a kind of a right-wing religious cult, and that is affiliation. So,
Mm.
and yet it wasn't, it was very motivating. So let's be clear, like motivating can also be psychological manipulation, it can be brainwashing, it can be positive things, but that is also very motivating. So even though I wasn't going to make 1 cent and would probably lose more, it was very motivating to be in it. So, I could just ask the viewers, what is it that motivates you around affiliation? What is the group or the company or the social environment or the family? What is your top affiliation motivation? And that may help you kind of narrow down what you're looking at.
Mm. So let's leave our viewers and listeners thinking about where they stand within those three and move on to talking about why motivation is important. Now, we try to make it very simple to understand with the 4 points on the screen there of setting goals to work towards, solving problems, changing habits, which is really key one, by the way, because if you don't change habits these days, you're going to be left behind there. And meeting all those uncertain challenges and opportunities that are around. Where do you think really the kernel of motivation lies within there at this moment in time, though, as with what we're facing, Anne?
Honestly, I think the kernel is changing habits, because it's really fundamental to everything else that's listed there. Your habits affect the goals you're set. Your habits affect how you solve problems efficiently or inefficiently. Your habits help you meet challenges and opportunities. I mean, even not just intellectual or business skills, but physically. As you know, you're feeling in a really healthy place right now, and so am I. And it's really amazing how just coming to the table with healthy habits in your lifestyle brings you clarity of mind, improves your motivation. It's really incredible. So I would say from everything from social issues to global issues, environmental issues, really it's about changing our habits is what changes our motivation.
And there's a well-known saying that people form habits and habits form your future. And if you don't change those habits, then you ain't going to form the future, are you?
No.
Right. Well, let's move on a little bit further. And the key thing, as everybody says, well, how do I get started on the motivational things? And I always say to people, they want to write down a list of goals and everything. Oh, yeah, do that. But pick out one at a time, put a time frame on that particular goal. Is that your thinking too?
That's an interesting question, because I am in some ways a multitasker and other ways not. Let's reframe that. For better or for worse, which some of my own coaches might remind me, I like to have a lot of kettles on the stove. So because of that, I often run into a challenge, which is I have 4 priorities that are all seem equal sometimes in a given day. And I have to decide which one to give my energy to and which one to stay motivated around. So the way I see motivation to me is spontaneous energy. Now, that's interesting, because you can wake up one day and just be motivated to have a great day. You can just kind of, you wake up with the gift that day or that minute of spontaneous energy, maybe until you go downstairs and see you left the sink overflowing. But after that, but when it's things you have to choose from, it's like, how do I align my spontaneous energy with these goals? And I think all of these are really important elements. I would actually start with the 4th one, which is accountability. Because if you have other people supporting you, if you have other people checking in on you in a positive, healthy way, if you bookend, which is a technique a lot of us use, which is, you kind of check in with someone when you start, I'm going to spend 1 hour on project 1, and you check out, you're motivated because you want to say, I did it, I checked it off. So that's one way of doing it.
Yeah, I tell my wife my goals and my motivation, because she is she's a hawkeye watching me, and she keeps saying, well, have you done that? Have you done that? I've done that, So domestic relationships sometimes can be stretched on that basis, by the way. But I also try to break it down into small parts, because sometimes my goals are like launching a new club or a new BVTV channel and everything like that. They're quite big, and really it's breaking them down to smaller tasks gives me little milestones, and I feel that I can give myself a pat on the back if I've reached each milestone. So
yeah, no, that's huge.
Go on. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah, no, I just was going to piggyback on that, which was breaking it down into tasks and also the time frame. One of
mm,
my favorite things to do, which is a popular technique that many people have heard of, and there's many ways to do it, but the popular technique is called the Pomodoro method, which is
yes.
working in 20-minute increments, and that really helps me. And literally, you can jump on YouTube and find a background channel of some beautiful image or some other person actually working with a 20-minute timer. You get to watch it count down. I have trouble sitting still. I have always been that child who was squirming in the church and could never sit still. So when I see that going 19, 18, 17, 16, all the way down to 1, and then I get a bell, and then I get a 5-minute break, I can do that. And then I do it
Right.
again, that keeps going. So that's a huge way that I get started.
Yeah. So just remind people, it's Pomodoro, isn't it?
Pomodoro, like the tomato. Uh,
Yeah.
2 Second Story was the guy who came up with the method, started using a timer in this way. And he just used his wife's kitchen timer that looked like a Pomodoro tomato sitting on the kitchen counter and to start his 20-minute segment. So Pomodoro, like the tomato.
Well, I'll just translate that for UK viewers. That's tomato, by the way, over here. You say tomato, we say tomato. Okay, moving on,
Pomodoro,
everyone.
that's like kind you make
Yeah.
sauce with.
This is a challenge, though. This is a challenge because we're all being pulled at so many different ways at this moment in time with so many different demands. And sometimes those demands you can't anticipate. They suddenly hit you, like COVID, for example, hit us. How do we stay on track? I like to feel that I've got a daily routine. I use a tool, a free tool called Todoist, and that keeps me very much on track. And I split it out across all the various functions I've got there. How do you go about staying on track then, Anne?
Yeah, I have often struggled to stay on track. My mind is kind of a creative place, and because of that, I'll have bright ideas in the middle of doing other tasks. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a bit challenging. So I kind of fall back on, again, get organized. And if you're not an organized person, get help and use tools like you just mentioned, or the Pomodoro method, other ways to sit yourself down to track your week, your day. Don't beat yourself up when you don't accomplish something. Because I think one of the
Yes.
things we do is we sabotage ourselves when we don't stay on track, and then we feel guilty and we feel bad, and pretty soon our whole mindset just crashes, and then we just say, oh, forget it, it was a wasted day, as opposed to, okay, how can I pop back in? How can I pick up where I left off? If my goal today was to achieve 70% of my work list and I achieved 65, that's excellent. That is top.
Mm.
That is a very excellent number. 70 would have been even better. But this kind of subconscious habit we've been trained to do, to measure everything against all or nothing, 0 or 100%, is really harmful because it makes us feeling bad about ourselves all the time instead of actually feeling good. And when we feel good, we get more done and we stay on track.
In the past, I've been very, very guilty of having long to-do lists. Completely long to-do lists. What I've done nowadays, I've cut it back dramatically, just to 3 to 5 items per day. And each of those items, I examine very carefully to say, if I achieve this, how will I have moved my business forward? And if it doesn't show that it can be moved forward, I'll put it into a back burner.
Wow, I love that. Like being very intentional about which 5 things you spend your time on. So let me ask you this then. Do you have a master list and then you pick the 5 for the day, or how does that part work?
Yeah, I do have a sort of a master list, but I do by calendar, so that and I have to make certain that I'm forward thinking on calendar, particularly because on our BVTV Global, our interviews calendar is up 13 weeks in advance. I have to be able to be scheduling everything and planning accordingly. So yes, I do have in the background master list, but I very much focused upon the core elements. So I'm saying, right, today, how is this job, which is sitting in front of me, is it going to move the business forward or not? Because sometimes I sort of cheat on myself and I think, oh, yes, it will. But in truth, I have to really examine and cross-examine myself to make certain it is going to work.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I like that. I like the constant evaluation. And it also, by being intentional that way, and is this going to move my business forward, or does this support the values of my business and myself? Really
Yeah.
keeping you on track. Because again, since concentrating is sometimes my challenge, I'm that person. It's really hard not to respond to emails as they come in, because I like to have, like, I'm a prompt responder. So sometimes we sort of trick our brains into being less productive because we think, oh, I want to appear that I responded quickly or that I was on it. And so you let the smaller tasks that could have waited until 4 in the afternoon, when you go through all the stuff you haven't done that day. Guess what? If you write emails back at 4 in the afternoon, your answers will be shorter because you're almost done your day. You don't want to hang around. If you start answering those things in the morning, you'll be writing these giant books. So it's so much easier to do it later. But yeah, figuring out what is the priority and making that part of your routine.
Yeah, without a doubt. But parallel to that, of course, is this thing about staying motivated personally. I try to look at my progress and momentum view, and there are many things that knock me out of momentum. For example, it might be a health issue, or it might be a family issue that arises. 4 grandchildren, and you never know what grandchildren, when they're so small like that, what they're getting up to, and everything, and that sort of knocks you slightly. So you've got to be able to cope with those little changes and those knocks, as we say there. I think I'm not just looking at the present goal that I'm motivating myself. I'm trying to think about the future goals. Where do I want the business to go to? Because if I don't know where I'm going to, then any road will take me there, won't it?
Yeah, if you don't know where you're going, you're going to end up being majorly sidetracked. So
Yes.
I mountain bike sometimes for fun, believe it or not. So when I'm out on the trail and I know where I'm going, first of all, I know where the end is. That's the end goal. And then I also am looking at, they say never ride the bike and look at the ground in front of you, like for new mountain
No.
bikers. You always look down the trail so you can anticipate the bumps and the holes and the logs and the curves, right? So if you don't have your eyes set on that, it's not going to go well. If you blindfold yourself and try to go mountain biking down that path, you're going to end up in a very different place than you were desiring to be.
Yeah. Now, I think that the last 2 bullet points on the slide there are quite important. And the first one there is mixed with the positives. Now, a few years ago, I was getting myself so depressed. And I sort of realized, and by doing some self-development, as we're helping people do today, that what I was doing, I was just being submerged by people who are negative. So I got rid of all of those. That's why they call me Malcolm No Friends these days, by the way. But I just got rid of all that to just only talk to people in the positive, stay with the positives. I'll put you down on the list, Anne, positive.
Good, thank you. Yay, I made it. I was just thinking about that this morning, actually, right before the show. As I was getting ready, I was remembering, I don't know what triggered it, a friend I had a few years back, a very, very good friend. And I had to step away from that that relationship. And I know it was a little hurtful to her. I wasn't unkind. I just kind of had to create distance and not respond as quickly. And it's very hard to kind of break up with a friend. It's easier to break up with someone like in a romantic relationship. You're like, it's over, right? But the friend, she didn't do anything wrong. It was just her personality was so negative, and she never ever sought solutions. She only ever wanted to complain. And I'm empathic and sensitive, and I'm like, it would just drag me down. And we were working together quite a bit and traveling together, and I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. So yes, I totally support your choice to surround yourself with positive people. I think that makes a huge difference. And partly surrounding yourself with positive people is finding ways to keep yourself positive. And that's different from willpower. That's taking care of yourself. That's physically taking care of yourself. That's taking care of your mindset, your emotions, or what some people call self-care, even if it means, something, a day off or a walk in the woods. The Japanese have this thing, I forget what it's called in Japanese, but it's called forest bathing. And it's not really bathing. It's not a bath, but it's a
Yeah.
meditation, like a walking or seated meditation in the forest where you revisit all your senses. So finding things that keep you in a healthy and positive place is going to, in all areas of your life, not just this task, is going to definitely help you stay motivated.
Without a doubt. And our last point there is finding a mentor. Now, finding the right type of mentor, somebody who will be a critical friend, I think is key. Otherwise, you can be very careful. You'll get sycophantic people who will tell you how wonderful you are and how well you're doing and everything. You need a little bit of a critical friend, I think, on a mentor. Both you and I do mentoring for people all over the world. And it's a skill, isn't it?
It is. It really is a skill. And I would say that the best mentors have mentors. So I have mentors, and without them, my personal and business life would not be as strong. I mean, I'm doing a million things all the time. You guys can look online. But if I didn't have that, because I have my days that are in the dumps too, and so, I mean, we have a lot more sun in California than you do, but I still have blue days. And so it's having those people in your life who can say, okay, this isn't a bad thing, but let's look at what we can do differently. Let's change the mindset up. Let's take some small steps to help you power through. And when you realize you've developed faith in that kind of system, and you realize how effective it is, especially for your business, you realize, that's something you want to keep. And then it's a tool that I get to share with others, nothing gets me more excited than watching them get excited and succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that there was a sly dig about at the UK there, and the fact that you get better weather in California. I'll let you know, here in the UK, we had 3 days of sunshine this last year, and we're looking forward to more this next year. Now, one last slide we need to be talking about.
I think we had 3 days of rain, Malcolm.
Yeah, give over. Listen. We shouldn't end on a negative because we're talking about motivation, but we've got you all so motivated, hopefully, so far. Let's just talk about it. What if you lose the impetus? What if you lose the momentum and everything? And I'm suggesting that this happens to many people. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just use the prompts that we're talking on the screen there. Where do you feel that we're getting it right here then, Anne?
Yeah, no, I think when you lose it, mentor again, obviously, and positive people, as we already discussed. And I had a day just this week, and I met a girlfriend for coffee, even though I was way too busy to do that. But something in my head said, self-care, you need to get some positive energy, because I was just having a really bummed out day. And so I was there, and I was like, oh, like sometimes I just feel like because I'm a writer, I can't even write. And I feel like what I'm writing is terrible and it's just crap. And she's like, listen, Anne, she's like, just because you're a bad day doesn't mean you're a bad writer. And I was like, oh. So I'll let you guys unpack that on your own. But there is a lot to be thought about there. Just because you're having a bad day doesn't make you a bad mom, a bad wife, a bad employee, a bad boss. So zoom back a little, give yourself a little kindness break, see the big picture, and talk to your mentor.
Well, on that very, very positive note, Anne, let's finish the end of this particular episode by you telling us and reminding people how they can get in touch with us to talk further about what we've been talking about.
Yes, absolutely. So you can reach me here. You can email me directly, contact@annescottlin.com. You can check out my website, the same, annescottlin.com, and the Mr. Malcolm Gallagher at MG. So his initials, MG at BizVision. That's B with a Z. I mean, Biz with a Z. Spelling wasn't my greatest tool. I depend on spell check. MG at bizvision.co.uk. Also the same website, bizvision.co.uk. So check out more information there. If there's anything we can do to help you, shout out. We'd love to hear from you.
So, Anne, we've finished our first episode. Exciting?
Yes, it was so much fun.
Now, how long have we been talking about doing it? But we've got
Oh
going,
my
and
goodness.
that's the main thing, isn't it? To get going. And hopefully what we're going to be doing in future episodes is helping you, our viewers and listeners, get going and winning. Are you looking forward to our next episodes then?
Absolutely. Can't
Have a
wait. I wish we
uh,
were shooting more tomorrow.
See you all, viewers and listeners. Thank you for tuning in or listening in. And do follow us on the A&M show. More episodes on the way to you.